Hello, sir.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Back again.
Not Ben.
Not Ben. I am not Ben. How is Ben going to feel when he finds out that he's been removed from the podcast and my head is on the logo?
Devastated, I think. He's going to regret going to Hong Kong.
That's what I think you texted me and you're like, that's what you get for going to Hong Kong, sir. We were joking about it. So we miss you, Ben. We know you're coming back.
Yeah. But yeah, figured we had such a good time last time. And I think we probably could have kept talking for another hour or so.
I think we did. We just didn't record it.
Yeah. We just basically my hard drive started to run out of disk space. It was a little touch and go there for a while. I thought maybe we weren't going to be able to capture the video because I was rapidly deleting files off the computer.
That was funny. Yeah. What should I delete? I don't know. I do that Dropbox folder and you moved gigs, 86 gigs or something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the B team is back.
Yeah.
Here.
So we did video last week. This time we're just doing audio. But that was cool. Posted that on YouTube and got a couple hundred views. So
that was nice.
Some good positive comments.
I know. Yeah, I haven't done much video, so it was definitely fun to see that.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's fun.
So let's kick it off with a level update. I'm curious what's happened in the last week.
Yeah. So I've been writing a lot of code, and I was feeling a little bad that my list hadn't heard from me for just over a month. I think with MicroConf and getting sick and sort of taking a little time off to visit family. It's funny how quickly time passes.
Yeah.
I did get an email update out to them, and the excuse for emailing was primarily our video chat, and then sent a few other updates. Talked about my my new acquisition of Level.app, and the new home for Level, and setting up Stripe. So got to share a few bits of just updates with the audience. Yeah, making good progress on the code base. I think I'm trying to sort of lay some solid foundations that will establish good patterns to apply as I build out the whole domain. So I basically got it working so that when I'm starting with creating groups, because that's where posts will primarily live. And so I kind of wired up the whole flow to where when you create a group and you decide to...
a group is like a channel.
A group is like a channel, yeah. I'm using the term bookmarking, but basically if you want that group to appear on your sidebar, then you can just basically pin it to your sidebar or bookmark it. And so I got the flow set up. When you create a group, it automatically bookmarks it for you. And when a bookmark is created, it sends a basically notification down a WebSocket, updates the front end, and the front end adds it to the sidebar. So it sort of completes the whole loop. And that's, basically a pattern I'm going to have to apply everywhere. Anytime, a user updates their status or a new post gets created, I need that solid loop to complete so that updates just propagate down to the front end.
Right.
So it's always fun to get kind of that set up. So I have two browser windows open and I go create it in the GraphQL console and hit the send button and it propagates down to the front end in the other browser window. Just seeing that never gets old.
that creativity, man.
Yeah.
It's boom, it's coming to life. That's the dopamine rush, right?
Yeah.
It's actually having something like that.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Completing the loop. So question for you, I was thinking about what we talked about last week where we were talking about, I was jokingly saying when are we going to see mockups,
Yeah.
And we were talking about having how it might be difficult since you are threading this needle of use. And if you just put a mockup out that kind of looks like any other chat thing, you're going to get, how is it different? And I started thinking, how long would it take you to build a quasi-functional prototype in InVision or equivalent? Remember when we were doing the email builder?
Yeah.
Drip is launching a visual email builder, and you and I, along with a designer and a product guy, we kind of prototyped it. Well, we figured out what it was going to do functionally, and then the designer went off and built a prototype, and he hacked it together with, I don't know, Spit and CSS or something, right? And there was some JavaScript in it, but none, very little of it went into production. And we then had people use it, and remember how much we learned?
Yeah.
And we were like, we made some really poor choices here. We made some really great choices here. We hammered on it. And we did 2 weeks, maybe, or 3 weeks of kind of usability testing. Most of it was just hallway. We just pulled people, pulled the sales guy, pulled this person. The learnings from that were so substantial.
Yeah.
And it was so nice that we had no code behind it.
Right.
And so I started thinking about that lesson. I mean, this is UX 101 these days, right? This is what everyone does, but you and I have traditionally not done that, right? We've typically built gone off on into the basement, gone off on the genius track and been like, no, we're really good at this, and that has worked out in general. I mean, we built a great product with Drip, but thinking of a level of uncertainty, the amount of uncertainty that you have right now, would you consider, what do you think about that approach, about taking 3, 4, 5 days and then getting on people, screen share where they can control and click through or whatever, however you did it?
It's undeniable that, we saw the success of that with the email builder project. And I think particularly on that, because there's so much nuance packed into this user interface and a lot of richness behind each click and each little, hover your mouse in this direction, in this area of the email, and you'll get this little icon. And then what does this icon mean? And so there's a lot of, that one was super dense in terms of, the user having to discover how to operate the user interface. And I think it's not quite the same in terms of user interface density, I guess, with this. But so I'm not sure I would be looking so much for, are people outright confused? Because I think it should be a simpler path through the interface. But I think it's probably the wise thing to do, to at least, I guess I would have to figure out what's the critical path for getting that feedback, because obviously there's a lot of elements that you could mock up and you wouldn't want to do all of them. So, so would it be like the first run experience all the way through to, or not first run experience? You're going to build a great first run experience. I have no doubt about that. Yeah. So I think of this as less of a usability thing. It's not like, is level going to be usable? I think it's going to be great. Yeah. The biggest uncertainty of this entire project in my head is not whether you can build it, whether you can build a great product. It is, can you thread this needle? Are you going to be between Slack on one end with a lot of interruptions and Swift? What is it called? Twist.
Twist, thank you. I have a mental block. But Twist or whoever else is trying to be less interruptive, can you build a superior experience? And that is it. So if you could just get that kernel of, you pop them into basically a mock-up and be like, this is it's not even can you use this, but here is how the paradigm is different. Right. Is all you're trying to figure out.
And kind of closely watch them. And if they're like, oh yeah, this does make sense. Or if they're like, see, I just couldn't see this working out because I like to get push notifications at this time, or, that kind of feedback. I guess what you're thinking.
I think that's what we're looking for, which is hard because, that where my analogy breaks down with the email builder is the email builder is a solitary experience. And like you said, it's a very compact UI. I don't need anyone else there to build an email, right? I'm building it and I'm looking at something, I'm building it. Mocking up a chat app, you have to have fake messages. So the person has to get into a fake mindset of well, this isn't my real coworker. So it's hard to simulate what it will actually feel like. Yeah. But I'm wondering if you can get 70% of the way there. Yeah. And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. One of the things, actually, I'm gonna pull it open as we're talking. I started making a spreadsheet, just kind of brain dumping into it, and I think actually if we have a whiteboarding session, this could be an interesting thing to think through and make sure that we're covering each of these scenarios. So basically, I'm trying to categorize all the different types of communication that occurs currently in Slack or email or just in general in the workplace. And trying to figure out what facets are there that make them unique from each other and how can I make sure that I'm satisfying each of those.
It's a really good way to do it. It's like a truth table, but not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I have, broadly speaking, and some of these might be a little bit redundant, but I have, 7 different types of communication that occurs. I have, people asking questions of one another, people just putting out greetings, like saying good morning to their colleagues. I have emergencies, so server's on fire, or there's an escalation in, exceptions coming through the tracking app.
Someone's trapped in an elevator.
Yeah, that did happen on my final day trip.
Not to you, to someone else, but it was funny.
I have show and tell, just someone saying hey, I worked on this thing, and either getting feedback or just they're proud of what they've done. We have brainstorming, which is more let's get a subset of the team together to specifically hash out an idea. General, just broadcast announcements, FYI, we're having a all hands party on next Friday.
There's tacos on the second floor.
Yep. And then private HR type related conversations between maybe a manager and one of their direct reports or something.
Got it. And I see. And then you have group or individual for some of these. Because I was going to say sometimes a question I might ask you directly.
Yep.
Or sometimes I might put it into a channel, the design channel or the design group as you're talking about. So I see. And so like for questions, you have it as both.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Questions are both group and individual. Greetings are usually I'm not just saying good morning to one person. That's it's intended to be a message broadcasted to my at least immediate team.
Yeah.
Emergencies are usually group efforts because you're not just like, I'm sorry, I'm sending a beacon out to one person.
Right.
Show and tell could be both. Brainstorming could be with one-on-one or with a group. Announcements are always group, and HR stuff's always individual. So. And then also I have on there the facet of does this need response at all?
Yep.
And, announcements and greetings, generally no. People can just read it, maybe react.
Well, that's what I was going to say. No response, but reaction. And I don't know if that's a separate thing or if that's just built in and it's everywhere,
So kind of as we're talking this through, I feel like one approach I could take is to sort of build a mocked flow for maybe not all of these, but a few of them. That's like, okay, here's the flow. If a team member needs to ask a question of another team member, they would. Here's the steps you would take, and to kind of walk through, and then like here's how, you can step away, come back, and this is what it looks like in your inbox.
Yep.
So,
I like that.
Depending on the urgency, like if it's an emergency, here's what your inbox will look like when an emergency is happening, and here's where you will get a push notification or where you won't.
Yep. I think that's big. And I don't think you need to build all 7 of these.
No.
But when I think of the most common, it's going to be questions, emergencies, announcements. Those are probably the first 3 I would do. Because every morning when we got into, work, there tended to be some announcement of someone's anniversary or a birthday or whatever. And it was like, I want to see that and give it a thumbs up or a shaking penguin or whatever.
Right.
Ian Nance
Party
his head
parrot.
or party parrot. Yeah. But, because that was a big, it was like, oh, this is cool, but I hate that it's in my main channels every day, So that would actually be a pain point I think you could address. And then of course, questions is super common, and emergencies are what a lot of us think about, So those are the 3 on the top of my head that I think you could, that's the way to do it, man. Because I was concerned when I was even suggesting this, it's like, how do you simulate an entire chat experience, And you don't, you just have these 3 use cases that you pull out. So. And
I'm glad you brought it up too, because I've been trying to answer the question of you're presented with the box to type a message in, and how do you make sure when you hit the send button that it's being treated properly? Like, do I automatically detect it's a question, or do you explicitly categorize it yourself as a question or an emergency? I think certain things like an emergency, I think there needs to be a control right there in the UI that's like, toggle, this is an emergency or this is urgent.
Yep.
But other things, it's like, I don't know if you should always categorize this is a greeting versus this is a question versus this is an announcement.
Yeah.
I mean, that puts a lot of burden on the user. And I think it's critical keeping the number of controls on that text box to a minimum.
If you were to do that, you would have to try to auto detect. So that you would have these 7 different statuses or whatever. Maybe there's not even 7 as you break it down. But when I type and there is a question mark, that'd be the first thing. It's like, Bing, it automatically tags it or whatever, categorizes a question. And I could, of course, change that, but you'd have to do that because otherwise it's too cumbersome, right? That would then be every time you have to think through I don't know, is it a greeting or an announcement? What's really the difference? And blah, blah, blah. So I would have to almost see a flow, or we'd have to whiteboard it out to really think through what that, and to think about what difference that actually makes in the behavior of each of these, right? Because essentially you need some type of workflow or some type of diagram of how each of these behaves differently. Well, what does it do in the left nav? Well, what does it do in the this? Well, how does it notify? And blah, blah, blah. And then I would almost look for which of these have commonalities.
Yeah.
And then try to smash those into like greetings / announcements are kind of the same thing in the way we behave. So let's not have, 7 different ones. So then you could smash the truth table down, right?
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, I think that's going to be a great exercise. We should do that soon.
Yeah, totally. I know.
I mean, I could do it alone, but I mean, I think it's going to be better with another mind there thinking about it.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I was going to ask because you invited me to whiteboard, and I don't have time today. But I was going to ask, is it a time? Because sometimes you're in a project where it's just not a good time to whiteboard. You don't have anything that you need whiteboarding, you know? And other times it's like, no, this is kind of critical. So
yeah, I felt like, you know, a month ago, I probably wouldn't have had, it was just too nascent, like too early on. I was still just like thinking through what are the colors going to look like and what's the, what's the identity of this thing and does it have a sidebar? Does it have a top nav? And I don't know. There's too many questions floating around. I think I have more clarity around. Like it's starting to, it's like fuzzy. Like I still am not seeing 2020 on it yet, but it's like coming into clarity right now.
Yeah.
And so now I think it's a good opportunity to start hashing out some of these finer details.
Yeah, that's cool. I was thinking, you know, obviously you're in the peak kind of creative mode right now, right? And I had a thought on that. I kind of had this theory I was developing in my head or just thinking about stuff. But before I dive into that, I wanted to ask, are you enjoying, like, is this a lot of fun for you right now?
It is, yeah.
Is it fun or is it stressful or is it both?
It's a combination of both, to be honest. I think I find myself getting, like, if I don't feel like have a good deliverable for the day, then I will be in a somewhat of a bad mood at the end of the workday. And it's kind of, I have to really be deliberate about pulling myself out of that and forcing myself to stop. Otherwise, I'll just want to keep, like, it'll just be on my mind through the evening. Even if it's leaving something undone, but knowing exactly where to come into it the next day, like that's a big thing that usually, like, if I have a breakthrough right at the end of the day, even if I don't get through it, but I know exactly what I need to do, that leaves me in a good mental state.
Yeah,
so a lot of it is about, like, what kind of progress do I make? Do I feel like I make a stride forward during the day? And if I do, then I'm usually happier if I have some kind of, like, realization that leaves me something to work on the next day. So it's a roller coaster. But
it always is that, and that's a good productivity tactic. I don't know, you know, folks have heard that before, but because it's often hard to get started in the morning, right? And you typically, well, I'm going to go look at email, I'm going to go look at Twitter or Reddit or whatever. But if you have that thing that you left the night before that you know you're just going to hit the ground running, like I will get in and close browsers and just be like, boom, 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 boom. You know, if you got it, it's like, oh, I'm right at the point where I'm going to hit something. So this, to get back to this, I won't even say it's a theory. It was just something I was noodling on, and I was thinking of where you are, you know, at the start of this project and how much fun that is and the creativity. But also this tremendous amount of uncertainty, because that's what gets you right. It's like, you don't know if anyone will care, you know, at this point. And that can then add stress. So it's this creativity is the positive thing, and it's why we do this, right? It's the fun. And uncertainty is I would say it's the negative. And they're both highest at the start. And then as a project matures, you know, think about Drip 4 or 5 years in. Think about, I think about Hittail by the time, you know, I was done with it. I think about .NET Invoice and everything. But Drip, since you and I shared that experience, 4 years in, it was a lot less creative, right? Because you have legacy constraints, you have tens of thousands of customers, so you can't just do things. It's harder to get things done because the code base is big and blah, blah, blah. Even though it was a healthy code base, it was hard. So creativity certainly decreases, and as a team gets larger, it decreases. But the uncertainty goes way down. I always felt like the roadmap almost wrote itself the last time. You know, we did a 1-year roadmap right before we left, and it was like, it was kind of easy. We know, you know, it was much different. So, but then it kind of, I will say, it can potentially get boring. You know? And there's a reason that I jump ship on things every 18 months.
Well, I think that's like the you know, stereotypical cushy programmer job is one where, like, I'm coming in to write this code that basically has, like, someone just needs to hit the keystrokes on it. We know exactly what the requirements are, and it's just maintenance work and not, you know, it's lacking. I think a big part of why those are unfulfilling is because it's lacking that creativity factor.
So for some people, that's fine. Like I have a really good friend who has worked we started at competing, like, web dev agencies in Sacramento in the year 2000. He still works there, and I've had 17 jobs since then, you know, which is fine. And we're still really good friends. He's just cool with it, you know, and he never wanted to take the risk. The uncertainty was too scary for him. But he also tells me, he's like, it's really not fulfilling. I'm not being creative or whatever. But I think for people like us who have to, and probably most folks who are listening to this podcast, like, they kind of have that outlet where they need to be creative. And so I think that's what I realized is there is no, you know, it's always greener on the other side, because once you get 4 years into an app, it's like, oh, it's generating all this revenue and it's successful. But it's like, this isn't as fun as it used to be. But going back to where it used to be is stressful, you know, even though it increases productivity. So
that's where, like, I mean, Basecamp has like basically rewritten their product multiple times. Do you think that, I mean, that I wouldn't recommend that to everybody. No. And they had reasons for doing it. I think mainly was that they wanted to make radical changes to the product. Like they had just a bunch of new ideas about how to approach project management and couldn't, like they were locked in by all their customers who were accustomed to everything working the way it already was. But yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, and they've talked about how they also did that to stay interested because they were getting bored.
Yeah.
So they hit that point where the uncertainty was gone. The roadmap's writing itself. Everything's, and their creativity was also gone. Yeah. So I think they did it as that. I think they have the luxury of doing that. I mean, they were very much an edge case. And I think, I can't imagine trying to do that with a business that's not throwing off tens of millions of dollars in free cash flow a year, probably. You know, I'm guessing that's what they have. So I think that's an awesome way if you could swing it. I don't think most businesses can. And I think that's the struggle. I think that's why founders tend to leave startups after a few years because the creativity and the uncertainty both decrease. And while those are, again, one's positive and one's negative, I think that the founder kind of mentality kind of needs that, the creative mentality. So
well, I think that summarizes pretty well why I felt like pretty strongly that it was the time to move on from Drip, was because, I mean, I love my teammates, and I really enjoyed coming into work every day and seeing all those people and working with very talented, smart, kind people. And not that I don't like the leadership role and helping, like my primary job towards the end was just helping my teammates produce awesome work and not so much me actually doing the work, and I do enjoy that and get fulfillment from that. But I think it's less about me writing the code and more about the stage that the company is at and just the nature of how much creativity is going into making, big steps forward on the product and delighting customers in big new ways and stuff. So
which is in the early stage, you're taking, bigger risks and doing things that can truly be like massively innovative, and that gets harder and harder the further on you are. But again, because of the tens of thousands of customers, or just the legacy and the size of the code base, or the size of the team, So makes a lot of sense. I don't miss having Slack. I told you. I mean, there are certain things I don't miss about the job at all. Fighting with spammers and blacklists. There was all this stuff. I truly do miss going into the office. Yeah. And I was like, and this will never happen, right? But in a perfect world, I think I would go into that office like 2 days a week and just work on my own stuff. Almost use it as a co-working space because I like seeing the people. So it was a funny realization of like, what would it look like?
Yeah. So. And maybe like that means like if you're with a company, you're in your startup and you're like 5 years in, but maybe you're still independent or whatever, then maybe you fire yourself from almost everything and you kind of become founder in residence and just sort of hang around. Then the thing to, be wary of in that scenario is to not undermine the people
that's the problem.
You've hired to replace yourself.
You're going to get pulled into meetings, where they're going to ask you your opinion. And since you're the founder, and especially as you're the founder, everyone's going to give it more weight than they should, frankly, especially as you become less and less connected or less and less familiar with what's going on. Right towards the end, last couple of weeks, I remember someone asked me a question. I was like, I just don't know. You're going to have to ask Brendan, and that was the right response. I can imagine some people feeling like they need all the answers just answering, and that would have been a mistake. So.
Yeah.
It's funny. So I have a question for you.
Yes.
I have been approached. So for, I don't know, let's just say, for the past probably 5+ years, I get maybe an email a month asking, will you be my mentor, or will you be, do one-on-one consulting is the other thing of like, I'm starting a startup and, I can pay you this much or whatever. Are you on Clarity? That kind of stuff, which is a per hour, or I'm sorry, a per minute, phone thing. And I've never done it because A, it didn't sound interesting. B, I never had the time, right? I didn't want to add that extra thing to my calendar that I have to stop and interrupt and all this stuff. A mutual friend of ours, a guy who comes to MicroConf, emailed me maybe a year ago and asked, and I was like, oh man, I really like you. And you have a business that's interesting to me and I'd love to talk about it. But I just don't have the headspace. I mean, a year ago we were mired in all, just trying to get the queues clear and all this stuff. Yeah. So he knows that I left Drip, and he emailed me a week ago, and he's like, hey.
I hear you have some free time.
Yeah, that's exactly. He's like, so what are you doing? Do you a call a month, or 2 calls a month? And I was initially like, nope, I just don't do that. But it was like, wait, why don't I do that? So I reevaluated. So I'm doing a pilot with him, and it is only one call a month. I would frankly do more. He's super efficient with it, and he's paying obviously, and we had our first one yesterday, and it was so much fun, dude. Because I know him, and I understand where he is, and I didn't have to ask him much. Like, I know his mindset. He's like us, he's the creative, and he wants to either bootstrap it for the lifestyle, or perhaps do a big acquisition at some point. Not big, but an acquisition, a life-changing acquisition. I know the product well enough, and I felt like I was able to validate stuff that he was asking really easily, because just by looking at numbers at this point, I can be like, oh, well, here's your problem. I was like, your churn is amazing. Like, that's great. But it's like, your ARPU is like, you got to fix that. And he's like, yeah, that's what I was thinking. And so it was a sanity check on him. And then at the end, I was throwing something that I was like, here's what I would do, with your pricing and blah, blah, blah. I would at least test this. It was all off the top of my head, but he was like, this is super valuable. Yeah. And I realized, wow, I actually know some stuff. Right. After doing that, like you take for granted of like, no, I'm just like everybody else or whatever. But it's like, no, I actually have experience doing things, right? So that's the setup. I'm considering doing just a handful of like weekly people and charging, $1,500 a month or $2,000, like a substantial amount of money, because I believe I bring that value, Yeah. And I've heard other people doing this who some who know what they're doing and some who don't, Yeah. And so that's it. I'm thinking about that and curious what you think.
We've had a lot of conversations about what are some of your favorite parts about, even towards the tail end of Drip, where you were mostly there in a lot of meetings to offer these types of insights, sort of things that you're not necessarily the guy who's going to do a bunch of MBA style research and whatever. It's more like you've learned these things over the course of just building startups, and you have a lot of like you said, just a lot of intuition, I guess, built up about when you see certain things happening, how should you approach fixing them? And I think, when you've talked to me, you've said like that's some of your favorite type of work to be doing. So this seems, on the surface, seems in alignment with what you enjoy. And that's what I've been wondering how, like, I think you need that, or you're going to get really bored, and I know you're taking some time right now to just sort of decompress from the last 5 years, but I feel like this is potentially one way to get those creative juices flowing for you without necessarily diving straight into another startup, which comes with all its stresses. It's like you're getting the fun parts of doing a startup without actually taking on the risk and
living vicariously for people.
Yeah.
It's a good point that you make. That's how I viewed. So I have these handful of angel investments, but I'm only really close to maybe 3 or 4 of them where like I communicate with the founder regularly, and sometimes I jump on calls and stuff. And that's been fun, which I guess this is the same thing, what I'm saying? And I would even have more, I would almost feel more, no, that's not true. I was going to say I feel more committed to it, but I would definitely feel like I need to drive results each time if you're paying me. I have a very high kind of bar if I'm accepting a check from you that I'm going to deliver. I was always concerned in the past, in all honesty, about number one, is it going to feel, because I hated consulting, dude, but it was when I was coding, and that's what, like, I talked to Sherry, my wife Sherry, about it. And she was like, this is so different, man. Like, you need to give this a try, was her thing, So I was always concerned that, like, I didn't like consulting, so I'm not going to like it this time. And the other thing that I realized is I think I'm done talking about that kind of the idea phase, or the, what idea should I pick, or how do I validate, it's like, I'm going only to accept people who have a business that is generating whatever it is. There's a number, probably 5K or 10K, has some type of thing that I can look at it and then figure it out.
Right, a certain amount of product market fit already, right?
That would be
post product market fit.
Yeah, or at least approaching, trying to find, but something in that realm. Now, you would be an exception, as you think about that. As soon as I say that, it's like, well, would you not talk to me? But it's like, no, because you're a repeat founder, and I think that would be the exception. But anyways, so I think that's part of the velvet rope policy that I would have, is it's like, I'm only going to work with you. I can really provide value there, and I just don't know how much value or how much interest I have in the pre. And so as soon as I shifted that mindset, it was like 2 days ago, where I was like, why can't I just say that? I can just say that I don't want to work with you if you're at this stage, you know? It's nothing against that stage or anything. It's just not my expertise at this point, so. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I think the worst, if I were giving myself advice, it's like, what's the worst that could happen? That's how I started thinking about it. Right. And it's like, you start it and you don't like it, and then you stop. It's not like these people's businesses depend on you. You weren't there 2 months ago. So if you do it for 2 months and you're like, oh, this just isn't working, just say, hey guys, I've decided to stop doing it. Like, it's okay. So that's, I think I just need to probably figure out some specifics and then email the list, It's a valuable service as long as you're doing it, but it's like if you decide to end the engagement with somebody, or maybe you like join on with somebody thinking it's going to be great, and then it just turns out to not be a great fit, or you're like, I just don't have anything to add, then you can just kind of step out, and it's not like you've been hired to write someone's MVP and do like software, software consulting, where like, I think if I were doing like software consulting and someone was paying me to do something substantial, like write their MVP, I would take on a lot of like, now I'm responsible for helping this person succeed in their business in a major way. But it's different in this type of engagement. So it truly is consulting rather than writing code for people, right? It's where you become a linchpin, and it's really hard. There's a high switching cost where it's like, oh no, I got to find another developer, and they don't know the code and the deployment and all this. This is much less than that. So I like it. I guess we can wrap it. We should do. You want to guest next week? Yeah, sure. Okay, sure. I may need to do it remote. That's fine. Yeah. So for sure. I think we have a couple episodes. I may just need to go home and like record a solo episode and throw it on somebody's feed to all the stuff I've been thinking about. Or maybe I should start blogging again. That's actually what I've been thinking about. Yeah. So cool. Okay, cool. Let's wrap it. You can find the show notes for this episode at artofproductpodcast.com. And thanks again for being on, Rob. Yeah, my pleasure, man. Postlude. All right. We won't go too long. Yeah. I'm trying to we could have gone a lot longer, but we were just talking before the show, like trying not to, folks are used to approximately 30-minute episodes on our feed, and I don't want anyone to unsubscribe thinking we're going to now be in the hour-long format. So. Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. So I have one thing I want to throw out that I've started experimenting with. Please don't mock me profusely when I say this. Soylent. Okay. So you were one of the earliest Soylent adopters. Like I had the powder. It never really worked for me because of it's stupid, but for me, it's the fact that I had to get a container, because I was always at work, and I had to get a container. I had to go, frankly, sometimes to the bathroom, but often to the kitchen, fill up the water, had to mix it. And then I had this thing I had to clean. It was just enough friction for me. Yeah. I also I don't believe that I should replace all my meals with this. I think that's crazy, right? Yeah. But like to eat it instead of a bag of chips for lunch, I think is a good thing. So one meal a day or something. And they now have the prepackaged plastic milk cartons in essence, or it's it's a plastic bottle basically. So premixed. Yep. And it just shows up. And they have one that has, they say it's Soylent plus coffee, so you can drink it in the morning. But what it is it's caffeine from black tea, so it doesn't have as much of the crash. Okay. The only reason I got this email from them, and it was like, get one of each flavor for $10 or something. And I was like, this is ridiculous, but I'm going to try it. Yeah. And so I am now, because every morning I make myself 2 eggs. I eat the same thing for breakfast every day. Yeah. And then I drink coffee, but I crash hard. Some coffee really impacts me. I can only drink half a cup, or I get jittery, and then I crash really hard at lunch and have to drink a bunch more. I've been drinking this Soylent, half a thing of Soylent. So it's 200 calories, which is just about the same amount as 2 fried eggs, at least according to what Google says. A fried egg, 90 calories. Yeah. So I drink about half of it. And then if I have a hunger pain, so this is the other thing, is at 10 or between 10 and 11, I always get hungry, as I know you do, with this fast metabolism, tall dude problems. Yeah. And instead of going, because I would go down and, I'm going to grab some chips. I would just grab crap. Right. I'm literally just doing I fill my mouth full of the non-caffeinated Soylent. So I have both. And it just tides me over for like 30 to 40 minutes. And then I have a normal lunch. And then in the afternoon, I always get starving between 3 and 4. And I just do a couple swigs of the non-caffeinated at that point, because I don't want caffeine for the evening. So I'm like engineering like what I hope or think is better kind of nutrition. Yeah. And I'm not crashing.
Yeah.
That's the other weird thing is that it truly is that whatever they put in there, I kind of want to figure out what they put in there, figure out if I can brew it myself. Like if it truly is just black tea. And I think they have all their ingredients open sourced or something. So, so anyways, I've only been doing it for about 2 weeks. It's not, it's like $3 a bottle, I think. And if you mix it yourself, I believe it's $2 for the same amount.
Okay.
So it's not that.
It's not that bit. Like the convenience might be worth it.
For me, it is at this point. But so I'm throwing that out. Do you think I'm insane and totally buying into the hype?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think, I got into this conversation with a guy who is extremely diligent about his nutrition. Like, I didn't even realize it until getting deep into conversation with him that he is far on the scale of like sciencing the heck out of his nutrition. Yeah. And
which always, so I have friends and acquaintances and Tim Ferriss and stuff who who do that, and that always bugs the crap out of me. So I'll be honest, and I'm not that guy. Yeah. And I don't want to be that person. Yeah. But it's always a little bit irritating.
It's irritating to me too, just because I think in a perfect world, like we would all be doing this and operating at our optimum, just like giving our body just the fuel that it needs at the right times to be running like a well-oiled machine. But then there's the whole factor of like being that guy at the dinner party who's like, oh, I can only eat such and such, and I can't have this, I'm like measuring the amount of fat versus carbohydrate intake I can have. And,
Can you make my meat without the barbecue sauce? Right. It's like, oh, gosh.
Yeah. But like one of the interesting things in having a conversation with him, I was trying to pull out like, what are some basic, what
are my 80-20s?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Yep. And I think, I was asking him like my two important things are, can I still have my lattes and cappuccinos, and can I still drink red wine? Like I know that no one on this earth can really justify, drinking beer, for example. Yeah. And so I'm trying to just limit. No, I'm trying to limit severely the amount of beer I intake, because like it doesn't come with the heart health benefits that red wine does. And he actually was saying like a lot of people don't have trouble with a good, well-made like liquor, like a whiskey or bourbon or something like that. Like sipping a little bit of that is, I mean, it's densely packed with alcohol and not a whole lot of, just because it's distilled down, it's
not a whole lot of calories.
Yeah, not a whole lot of calories. But so I got some tips from him on like actually a cappuccino is fine because the milk helps like balance out some of the acid and the way like the caffeine gets absorbed into your body or something. Like I think it's good to have that fat with it. And then he said like red wine. The actual best time to have that is not with your meal or after your meal, but before, so that your body can like start processing it. I'm probably butchering this terribly, but like get a jump on processing it. And then it gets processed in tandem with the food that you eat. And so like these were all good like tips just to like, I basically follow that. I like cooking while sipping wine because I get an easier buzz when I'm
when your stomach is empty.
Yeah,
totally.
And he was like, "Yeah, that's an added benefit is you actually get more of an impact from it."
Yep.
So when I'm trying to get creative in the kitchen and pop on some music and I'm cooking, like it's nice to
flowing. Yeah.
So I'm glad that fell into like my typical pattern, like aligns with. So my whole point in all that was like. I'm guessing like it sounds like you're listening to your body, and your body's telling you like if it's not crashing and you're not getting like overly hungry or shaking or like I think that goes a long way, just listening to your body and figuring out like I think you're probably giving it good fuel at those points in time if it's sustaining you. So
yeah, that's my sense as well. The other day I tried to do it for breakfast and lunch, and it did not work well at all. And by like 2 or 3, I was super jittery, even though I didn't drink the caffeine for lunch. It was like it caught up with me. It was some weird thing. So that's where I'm like, all right, I'm still going to do, some type of something for lunch that's physical. So I think that's going to be my jam.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm similar in that I really eat pretty much the same thing for breakfast every day. And I kind of consider that a throwaway meal. I mean, I do crave certain things like I like to have a little bit of texture at breakfast. So I did like these waffles from Trader Joe's that it's probably not the greatest calories, but that with a fried egg was like,
ooh, that's good.
Really good.
Yeah, I knocked out carbs for my breakfasts a couple 2-3 years ago because they were making me tired, and I just found that I'm not super hungry in the mornings, so I didn't need the carbs to fill my stomach. But a texture thing, I could see that driving you towards it.
So now I'm doing more like yogurt with fresh fruit and a little bit of granola.
There you go.
But that's the other thing. Like, I feel like I sometimes have a hard time figuring out what, like, the correlation between the things I eat and how I'm feeling. Like, and I think it's good to be in tune with that. I feel like I need to do a better job of that.
I agree. I've been trying to think more about it, especially as I get older, just to try to keep the energy level up.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, man.
Well, should we wrap it?
We should.
All right.
Bye.
Until next time.